As jump out early and often and blow out the LA Clippers, playing a fast-paced, quick game tonight to win this one in a game that had one tie, no lead changes, and was a complete whitewash. We're talking about it coming up on POSTCAST. David Locke along with Ron Boone here for you as the Jazz beat the LA Clippers. Final score tonight, a whole lot to a whole little, 121-92, and the score didn't matter for a long time. Ron, what jumps out to you about this one?
Well, those 71 points they scored in the first half, and the way they were able to get there, a lot of people contributed, and the pace of play benefited the players that the Jazz had out there on the floor.
All right, so we opened the broadcast talking about Tyronn Lue, talking about how they've learned how to try to score without Paul George and without Kawhi Leonard. They've had a hard time doing it, frankly. And that was very much of our storyline of how are their Jazz going to figure out how to score. So you just allude to it. Dig into it a little deeper. What did they do, and why was it right for these guys?
Well, especially after made shots, and I didn't think they were that bad after. After missed shots, and I didn't think they were bad after made shots of getting the ball up the floor there as well. But missed shots, they were able to just get out and run. And if you notice, majority of the time it was up the sidelines, and that really works because you can automatically get into something, working from the sideline. So they pushed the ball to the floor. They played fast. Watching the 24-second clock, the majority of the time, it was about 20 seconds. Sometimes you mentioned a couple of times it was 21 over the timeline. It just gives you so much extra time if nothing's there on that second option, to get a chance to get the third option.
You just said something really interesting I haven't thought about before. We watched the Chicago Bulls the other night, who lead the NBA in fast breaks to the rim. And what they did is they ran by getting the ball in the middle, and then they had guys sprinting the outside. They'd make another ahead pass. They'd pass once ahead to the middle of the floor and once to the wing. The Jazz, on the other hand, though, go up the wings. What's the different concepts here?
Well, the Chicago Bulls, the way they run the fast break, and they have some runners. I mean, they have some guys that can really get up the floor. So they like getting the ball to the middle of the floor, kind of like when you were in high school, David. That's kind of a high school fast break, where they get the ball in the middle and you fill the lanes. Jerry Sloan liked to do it the same way. You fill the lanes and then the guys filling the lanes, they cross underneath and they come out. That's the way they would get into their offense. The Jazz do a little bit different. They run up the sidelines. They push it ahead sometimes. And if that's not there, then they get to a dribble handoff into a pick and roll. I mean, just different ways of getting it in there depending on the personnel and the type of players that you have.
Let me just clarify. There's very few things in my life where the word fast is the adjective.
I'm sorry.
Or the verb. Maybe skiing. And that's about it.
Yeah, you're a good skier.
I kind of thought I crossed 50 miles an hour today on the skis, and it turned out
it was
only
really?
49. No, I was kind of bummed. All right. Let's talk about some of these guys because we got a lot of different performances. Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Nickeil Alexander-Walker got the start tonight, along with Mike Conley, Royce O'Neal, and Rudy Gobert. Let's start with Alexander-Walker. What did you see from him tonight?
Well, he played well. Got 32 and a half minutes tonight, 5 assists, ended up with 13 points. I like what I saw because, if you talk to some of the other players that's watch him every day, they'll probably say the same thing. They like the way he plays and the way he attacks the rim. That's one thing that they wanted Trent Forrest to do is shoot the basketball, attack the rim. And so I'm very pleased with his last 2 basketball games. And I need to see a little bit more of him defensively. But offensively, you can see he does and not shy about trying to score points.
Juancho Hernan-Gomez got the start tonight. He finished with just a really balanced line, 6 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. What do you see from him?
Well, solid minutes. Didn't hurt the basketball team. I mean, he didn't shoot that well. 2 of 6 from the 3-point line. And that 2 of 6 tells me that all 6 of his shots anyway came from the 3-point line. But if you can put a guy out there on the floor for a short period of time, he can make those minutes productive, not hurt the basketball team to the point where he's giving up a lot of points defensively, then he looked good. But again, another one of those players we need to see a little bit more of.
All right, Jared Butler got a bunch of time tonight, played 24 minutes. He finished with 21 points, most of them in the second half. 5 of 10 from 3, 8 of 13 overall. He also added 7 assists.
Perfect team to play against for Butler. Because he had looks that you probably wouldn't get against some better teams. He did a couple of moves and offensively it made some things happen, but majority of his looks was uncontested looks, and that's what the Jazz want. And he made them. So who knows going forward, with him, or if there's minutes for him to get out there on the floor because of people ahead of him.
Before we talk about Jazz defense, which was as important to this win as anything else, Eric Paschall plays 18 minutes in the Sun Whiteside role tonight. 17 points, 4 rebounds. He finishes 7 of 14. He started 4 of 4, and actually I think at one point was about 6 of 7. Really had a big force in this game early. Paschall.
Yeah, I like the way he attacked the basket and used his body. What did I say? Weighed 260? I mean, he used his body. He has some quickness for that size. Football team would probably love to have a guy like that with that kind of quickness. And then the power game that he used, getting to the basket, make some things happen. Got to the free throw line 4 times in 18 minutes. Got up to 14 shots in 18 minutes. That's not too bad. Huh? I think I'd like that as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's go. The last thing on this part tonight is the defense, because the Jazz held the Clippers to 7 of 21 shooting in the first quarter and then had a defensive rating of a 70 by the end of the first half. So what did the Jazz do? I mean, they didn't let them get to the rim at all tonight.
No.
We haven't really talked about Rudy Gobert, but he was dominating in the first half of this game. He had 19 points and 18 rebounds tonight, or 16 rebounds tonight in 26 minutes. What did you see defensively from the Jazz? Because that was what you and I were talking at shoot-around today. The question was whether the Jazz defense could be so good against a team that really doesn't score much.
Tell you the truth, David, I didn't think that their offense was good enough to get a good read on the Jazz defense. They were a perimeter team. They were doing what the Jazz was forced to do against them last year, passing the basketball around the perimeter, except when they tried to get the ball inside to the Zubac. Yeah, Zubac, right? Yeah, that. But they did stop them from scoring. So defensively, if you really want to get down to the nuts and bolts, I didn't think the Clippers did enough to.
I mean, Reggie Jackson, at this point, their offense, and Reggie Jackson couldn't get to the rim, and so then Reggie Jackson's playing a weird floater game and an off-the-bounce 3 game he's not very good at. And you suddenly got Reggie Jackson just doing a lot of things that he's not good at. Marcus Morris suddenly is playing a completely perimeter game because he can't get to the rim, and so you're right. Like, at that point, they just don't have the firepower right now to be able to beat you, missing Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Those guys are going to be best when they're playing either Reggie Jackson playing second-side offense or Marcus Morris is playing spot-up off of Paul George or Kawhi Leonard action. Yeah. Be interesting to see what the Clippers look like by the time they hit the playoffs. We'll see them in a little more than a week when we wrap up our road trip. Clippers will finish 8th in the West. There's really no other scenario for them. The question is just who they're going to play. Jazz win today. Denver and Dallas both lose. So we go back to 4th in the Western Conference tonight. Denver actually has a very, very soft schedule the rest of the way, and that was one of the few games that they may lose the rest of the way. Minnesota's the other one to watch here. Minnesota plays 7 games coming up against really, really good teams, and frankly, we need them to lose a lot of them. If Minnesota suddenly comes out of the next 7, like 5-2, then the 7th seed is in play for somebody, and that includes Utah, Dallas, or Denver. Mm-hmm. So that's the things to watch. We're heading out on the road. We'll be in New York City next time we talk to you. Have a great one.